This program was produced by and first broadcast on Radio Kidnappers, a community access media station. Thanks to New Zealand On Air for making this type of programming possible.
Good morning, everyone. This is Heiko from the Acupuncture on Air show on Radio Kidnappers. Today we're going to be talking with Ilana Sowter again, who we've spoken to already, and we had a great show last time. So good morning, Ilana. How are you?
Good morning, Heiko. I'm well, thank you. And regarding the weather, it was a fantastic 20 degrees with sunshine yesterday, but now it's windy with rain.
Right.
And I say this as a woman, Melbourne weather can be truly likened to the catastrophic changes of female hormones.
Yeah, it's probably a bit like Wellington weather, not like here at Hawke's Bay where we have a classic sunny Hawke's Bay day today.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, I'm looking forward to today's show with you, and again, it's a bit difficult to sort of promote because in the past my shows have been really up front and very sort of German. Acupuncture for headaches, acupuncture for knee pain, but
right.
But today it's a bit broad, and we're sort of talking about masculine and female energies in relation to Chinese medicine. So I'll try to make a start. Of course, we know in Western medicine, males and females are obviously different hormones, and they get different complaints and stuff specific to male and females. But tell us some of the differences in regards to acupuncture and the meridians, and are they different, and they used for on different conditions for different men and female?
Yeah, look, great question, Heiko. As a Chinese medicine gynecology lecturer, I would say that the main meridians involved in female growth and development are two very special extraordinary meridians known as the renmai, the conception vessel, and the chungmai, which is the penetrating vessel. There are others involved too. Obviously, the dumai and the daimai are important. However, the renmai and the chungmai, the stage that they're at and their development depends on when and how a girl will reach menarche, which is getting her first menstrual period, and they're also closely related to the kidneys and the uterus. So briefly, the renmai is the sea of yin, so it governs all the yin in the body, and it's so important in clinic because obviously women can get yin deficient presentations such as, hot flushing in menopause, so the renmai is really good for that. And then there's also the chungmai, which is the sea of blood, and that governs the blood and how the blood fills up in the body. So a woman with a chungmai deficiency, she might not have very substantial periods. And there can also be blockages or qi going in the wrong way with the chungmai. So that's important to use for conditions such as, amenorrhea, no period, or dysmenorrhea, period pain, due to blood stagnation.
Okay, now with that, you mentioned a bit about the different meridians and how they affect females. But what about the organs in the body? I mean, everyone we know we have liver, kidneys, and spleen, and so forth. Would you say with females or with men that any one particular organ becomes more imbalanced, or is the focus of treatment?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I would take it back to, the classic of the Neijing, the Chinese medicine classic, which was written in 100 BC. And back then, they were writing in Chinese medicine about the differences between men and women physiologically. And the text clearly states that a woman menstruates every month and obviously a man doesn't. And because of this, it makes her blood deficient. And it also says that because she's blood deficient, she tends to have an excess of qi. So women naturally tend to have an imbalance between those two vital substances, the qi and the blood. And it also means that for a woman to be healthy when we're checking the pulse, the blood side should always be a bit lower than the qi side. And if it's the other way around, there's definitely an imbalance going on. And because of this excess of qi, this is why so often in clinic women have these horrible and uncomfortable signs such as headache aches and pains, irritability before the menstrual period, known as premenstrual syndrome, PMS. And also, as she gets older, it tends to get worse because the chi is perhaps getting more stuck and excessive in comparison to the blood deficiency. And that means long-term that a woman is vulnerable to experiencing liver blood deficiency.
Yeah, this is quite interesting because I think, like in the West anyway, it's sort of like it's marketed to the women out there that you can do everything, and you do triathlons and you go swimming in freezing cold water in the middle of the winter, any day of the year, irregardless of where they might be with their menstrual cycle or whatever, or that they could even be doing themselves harm. So, because I know that we've had some Chinese homestay students staying with us at the house, and for them it's quite normal that if they're having their menstrual cycle, they won't do swimming for the school activities, right. And then the school teachers think, they're just it was just weird kids, but
but they have a reason, and it's interesting too because women, if we look at the menstrual cycle, there's ovulation and the period, and women's hormones regulate every month, and we could call the hormones the vital substances in Chinese medicine. But, around ovulation, women tend to have a lot more energy and they feel better and they've got drive, and that's a great time for them to do more work, more exercise and whatnot. Whereas once they're right before the period, and then they get their period and all their hormones drop, they're a lot... you have a tendency to be more vulnerable and weaker, even slightly slow compared to ovulation.
Now, I know that in modern medicine obviously takes quite a different approach compared to sort of the classical or the traditional Chinese medicine approach, but the example they often use is migraines, and what I find in some instances, it's actually more important to just treat the women's menstrual cycle, and you regulate that, and then the migraines, gets better. So do you have any sort of comments about something like that?
Yeah, well, that's very wisely said, Heiko. You're absolutely right. One of the key treatment principles...
My producer's just waving to me. He's putting his thumbs up because I'm always right, Go on, sorry.
Exactly. Well, we're here to be right, to be happy, not to be right. But you're definitely right in this case. One of the key treatment principles in Chinese medicine for gynecology is to regulate the menstrual cycle, which effectively translates as balancing the woman's hormones. And when we regulate the menstrual cycle, we balance all those vital substances, the qi, the blood, the yin and the yang, and that ensures they're in working order. And then the main complaints, such as the migraine, should improve because obviously if there was qi stagnation or blood deficiency, that area has been balanced and then the symptoms should improve. And one aspect I love about Chinese medicine is that we will always consider a woman's gynecological history closely in our differential diagnosis. And medicine has come a long way and is now even realising how important this is, and that there is more research required to be done on women for all areas of health, because most medical studies usually have men as the participants.
Okay, that's interesting.
It is. It's fascinating. So effectively, all the medications around the world that women take, most of the studies have been done on men.
Okay. Now, I've got another little question for you now, and it's probably a bit out there, so I hope you're able to give some insight to it. But in the past, I've had examples where I actually treat couples, like a male and female couple, and they've both had, say, the same complaint, like sciatica. And then, I'm treating them, and to a certain extent, they're getting a bit better. And then what's happened is that then they, for whatever reason, they have broken up or departed or whatever. And then you find that they still come back and see you when they're no longer together. And then suddenly one of the complaints of one has completely gone, and the other complaint has gotten a lot worse. It's almost if, what I'd say, energetically, they were carrying the other person's burden or the, their complaint. Have you ever had any sort of examples or similar things like that happen with you?
Well, it is very fascinating, Heiko, and I do wonder, are you increasing the rates of divorce in Hawke's Bay by chance? But the relationship between a man and woman is intriguing, and I would say metaphysically, the example that you give here, if the problem is sciatica...
Well, it can be any problem really, but I
Okay.
just picked sciatica just as a topic, but it could be any problem.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, metaphysically with sciatica, it's considered as a physical symptom of being hypercritical, fear of money and fear of the future, which kind of sounds like doom and gloom for the couple. But I do wonder, my second question is, does it tend to be the man or the woman who ends the relationship or recovers completely first?
Yeah, that I haven't paid attention to or whatever. I just know that sometimes, while I'm treating a couple and then they break up, that it's like one of the symptoms gets better in one of the people and then the other one, it often gets worse. So and I just sort of thought, is that a coincidence?
Yeah, how long have you been practicing for?
Oh, more than 30 years now. So
Yeah, wow.
So yeah, it's
that's a conundrum. I mean, I definitely believe that couples will carry a burden. Perhaps they've been, unhappy to a certain extent, and obviously, metaphysically in the body, if we do have signs and symptoms, it can be due to, and we know that in Chinese medicine, underlying unresolved emotions, and perhaps the treatment moves that underlying blockage in the body from the emotions, and then allows perhaps one partner to realise that they're not happy or then they don't no longer want to be in the relationship.
Okay. Now, just sort of changing now from a bit too sort of esoteric metaphysical and going right back more to more modern and scientific. And we know that you've just recently completed your master's in Chinese herbal medicine.
I have.
And in that process, obviously done lots of study from the traditional and the modern aspect of Chinese herbs. But we thought maybe just if you could just give us a couple examples of some herbs that may be more appropriate for women and some that might be more appropriate for men.
This is a great question. In my opinion, Chinese herbs are so important for fertility and reproductive related cases. And I'll just mention a few, but one of the first herbs for women is dungwei angelica, and it's known as the queen herb for women because, as we mentioned earlier, women tend to be blood deficient. So dungwei tonifies the blood, it regulates menstruation, and it can also move blood and expel cold from the body, and even move the bowel. And it's also traditionally good for cough, like a long-term chronic cough. There's another great herb is baishao because women tend to have this excess of qi. They are prone to liver qi stagnation, liver blood deficiency, and liver yang rising. So the baishao, which is the white peony root, that pacifies the liver and nourishes the blood and preserves the yin. So it's a really nice, softening, cooling, take the edge off herb. And then the other one for women I would mention is chinjiao, just because it was brought to my attention again. And it's a great herb to use, I suppose, in older women when they're getting more serious neck and shoulder tension or bad PMS and the wind damp has gotten deeper in the body. It's not just a bit of blood deficiency. And so this herb, chinjiao, which is, I think it's gentania, dispels wind damp, clears heat, soothes the sinews and channels, and it also moves the bowel, but it's going to alleviate pain. And then for men, this is quite a common one. Have you heard of of course you've heard of yin yang ho, which is horny goat weed?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the Chinese medicine.
I just noticed my
Viagra.
producer's just woken up. You said something horny goat weed, and he's just
exactly.
he's writing it down.
Conversation interesting. Exactly. So that herb is it's a kidney yang tonic, and it's good for the lower back and warming the Ming Men, the heat of the body, and obviously good for libido and for women too. I'll often put it in women's formulae if they need drive. And then, interestingly, there's Ren Shen, because in Yang Shen, in Taoist medicine...
That's a ginseng, isn't it, Ren Shen?
Yeah, ginseng. Yep. When, in Taoist, it's interesting, in Taoist medicine they talk about how often a man should ejaculate to preserve his health and his jing. So one of the ways a man can do that is after he ejaculates is to take some Ren Shen to nourish the body. And also... protects the heart yang, because when a man, in Chinese medicine, when a man ejaculates, his heart yang is vulnerable. So if he takes some Ren Shen afterwards, it's very beneficial for him. And that's good for the kidney, the yuan qi, the spleen and stomach, the lungs, and it's quite calming. And then Lu Rong, which you've mentioned, Heiko, which tonifies the kidneys, fortifies the yang. It opens the Dumai and Qin blood, and it's even good for women too. I've used it in the past to help build uterine lining with women with, thin uterine linings for fertility.
Fantastic. And we're sort of going slightly off topic here, but getting back to that sort of male and female energy thing. What I've noticed in the past is that I always tend to have more women in practice than men, and I've always had that even from, when I first went into practice.
Right.
But what I find is that, if I can label women in a certain way, they're more proactive at doing something about their complaint. They have something, so I'm going to do something about it. They might go to the doctor, they go to a specialist, acupuncture, get a massage or do whatever they're going to do. Whereas men, I find is like, they'll have it for like 6 months or 8 months. And I find that often here with treating injuries like musculoskeletal things, because it's covered here with our insurance called ACC.
Right.
If a woman has it, they come 2 weeks after the injury. When a man has it, it's 10 months after. So I'm just wondering, is that just me
huge.
Or is that you? Do you find that in practice as well?
Yeah, it's a very valid observation on your behalf there. Because in nature, if we talk about feminine and masculine energy, the feminine energy is soft, nurturing and caring, whereas the masculine energy tends to be solid, leading and directive. And research even does show that when a man has a wife, he will live longer than a man who does not have a wife.
Okay.
The Harvard studies showed that spousal bereavement has a much more serious impact on a man's health than a woman, which says a lot, I imagine, because a man will, if he has a very feminine woman and she's very doting. For example, my grandmother would always make my grandfather breakfast in bed. She'd cook him his favourite meal. He was living the dream. I can imagine men like this. They would sincerely miss that doting and caring energy from the feminine. And the feminine energy governs relationships and nurturing. So she possesses this natural instinct to look after herself and her mate as feminine a quality to show her love, whereas a masculine manner of expressing love is more so done by doing things for his mate and looking after her financially and supporting her rather than in the home.
Okay, that's interesting. Because what I find too is the difference with the my patients too, and I think I can definitely see that. But I know that we've done some stats research here in New Zealand about the type of patients that we would tend to see in the clinic, and the highest scoring one, if you like, is a professional woman aged sort of around 33 to 45. Yeah. And usually they're a little bit more socioeconomic off. They have a bit more money, so they can, and then they're okay to spend some money on their own health. They get a massage. So, and I've just got my producer up there saying we've got 5 minutes. So,
good. So we can talk a bit about the masculine and feminine energies. Yeah, great. Okay, so you're ready for this?
Yeah.
Do you know much about it?
Well, no, that's why I interviewed you, for you to tell me.
Oh, you're so lucky you can just interview people when you need to find out things. So it may seem like a strange idea, but I believe we all have masculine, which is yang, and feminine yin energy in the body. And, constantly we will go from masculine to feminine energy. And the idea is that we can master both energies rather than automatically just react from one without being mindful. And, you know, if you're a man, I suppose you tend to have more masculine energy, like 60%, that's according to Ayurveda, 60% masculine to 40% feminine. And then a woman would be 60% feminine to 40% masculine. And, of course, everyone is different. Some people are more masculine and more feminine. So the yang, the masculine energy, its energy is of a competitive, conquering, taking control nature. And however, it has very giving action. So it's giving, protecting, cherishing. Its action is maleness, and intentions are being mentally well, governs money and sex, and concrete thinking. And the consciousness of the masculine is intuitive, the intellect, and thinking and performing. And so the feminine is obviously yin, and it complements the yang of the masculine. So the feminine energy is deemed as passive, but it's not submissive. You know, a lot of women think, oh, if I'm being feminine, then I'm, you know, not being equal, I'm not good enough. But
my producer's laughing now. Sorry, go on.
Because, you know, the power of the feminine is in saying no. You don't necessarily have to shout it from the rooftops, but you always have the right to do what you want to do and say no. And it's a more patient energy, and it's vulnerable emotionally, so being able to share emotions. And the actions are receiving, which I think a lot of women have trouble with these days. You know, men opening doors for them, or people trying to give them things, and they're like, oh, no, I can do it, no. And that really blocks the feminine energy. It's respecting, and men and masculine energy like to feel respected for their thinking. It's appreciating, and it's femaleness. The intention is psychically well. So it's more, with a woman, it's more the feeling. And, you know, they've done studies on this. There was like an example of a rapist who had killed many women, and then they found out later that a lot of the women actually had met this man, but they had this feeling that there was something wrong about him, and they, you know, got out of the situation straight away. And this is an example of that.
But listen, so we're probably just getting up towards the end of our time here, so
sure.
We might try and continue that in our next show with you.
Yeah, sure.
But otherwise, look, it's been great having you again, and I just have to quickly just mention our closing song, and I've picked a Melbourne band from the 60s who you probably haven't heard of, Ilana, but it's called The Loved Ones, and the song is called Sad Dark Eyes. And I just want to finish the show with something really original that I've made up for myself, and that is no matter what you do today, have some fun.
Very cool, Heiko. And that's a great choice for the music. I listened to that yesterday, that song, and thanks for introducing me to The Loved Ones. And I think they make very masculine music.
Great. All right, and we'll catch you soon on our next show. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
This program was produced by and first broadcast on Radio Kidnappers, a community access media station. Thanks to New Zealand On Air for making this type of programming possible.